Hello and welcome to QuickTale English. Today we share the story of a modern romance that shook the foundations of the British monarchy, Harry and Meghan, the prince and the actress. Prince Harry was the younger son of King Charles III and the late Princess Diana. For many years, he was known as the rebel of the royal family. He was a soldier, a pilot, and a man who loved adventure. However, despite his famous family and his wealth, he often felt lonely. He was looking for someone who understood him not as a prince, but as a person. Across the Atlantic Ocean in Toronto, Canada, lived Meghan Markle. Meghan was a successful American actress, famous for her role in the TV legal drama Suits. She was also a dedicated activist, working for women's rights and humanitarian causes. She was independent, modern, and had her own career. In July 2016, a mutual friend organized a blind date for them in London. Harry didn't know who Meghan was, and Meghan didn't know much about the British royals. But when they met, the connection was immediate. I was beautifully surprised when I walked into that room and saw her, Harry said later. I thought, okay, I'm going to have to up my game. A secret romance. For several months, their relationship was a secret. They traveled to Botswana together, where they camped under the stars and talked for hours. It was a perfect beginning. Harry felt that he had finally found his soulmate. However, when the media discovered their romance in late 2016, everything changed. Meghan was not a typical royal bride. She was American, she was biracial, and she was a divorcee. While many people celebrated this diversity, the British tabloids, popular newspapers, were often critical and even aggressive. Harry was protective. He remembered how his mother, Princess Diana, had suffered because of the intense media attention. He didn't want the same thing to happen to Meghan. In a rare move, he released a statement asking the press to respect their privacy. The Royal Wedding. On May 19th, 2018, the world watched a fairy tale wedding at Windsor Castle. It was a historic day. The ceremony included a gospel choir and an energetic American pastor, mixing British tradition with Meghan's African American heritage. Meghan became the Duchess of Sussex, and Harry became the Duke of Sussex. At first, the couple was very popular. They traveled to Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. They announced they were expecting their first child. When Archie was born in May 2019, it seemed like the perfect ending to the story. But behind the palace walls, things were very difficult. The pressure and the choice. Meghan found it hard to adapt to the firm, the nickname for the royal family's organization. There were many strict rules and a lot of protocol. She felt lonely and silenced. At the same time, the negative stories in the newspapers continued. Harry was also struggling. He felt that the royal family was not protecting Meghan from the media attacks. He saw history repeating itself, and he was terrified for his wife's mental health. My biggest concern was history repeating itself, Harry explained in a famous interview. In January 2020, the couple made a shocking announcement that changed everything. They decided to step back as senior members of the royal family. They wanted to become financially independent and divide their time between the UK and North America. This event was called Megxit by the media. A new life in California. The transition was not easy. There was a lot of tension between Harry and his father, King Charles, and his brother, Prince William. The split caused a huge drama in the royal family. Eventually, Harry and Meghan moved to Montecito, California. They started a new life away from the palace. They launched their own foundation, Arkwell, and signed big deals with Netflix and Spotify to tell their own stories. In March 2021, they sat down for a revealing interview with Oprah Winfrey. They spoke about their struggles with mental health, the lack of support from the palace, and even concerns about the skin color of their children. The interview was watched by millions and caused a global debate about racism and the future of the monarchy. The legacy of the romance. Today, Harry and Meghan live in California with their two children, Archie and Lilibet. They are no longer working royals, but they are still global celebrities. Their story is more than just a romance. It is a story about the conflict between tradition and modernity. For some, Harry and Meghan are heroes who chose mental health and love over duty and power. For others, they are seen as people who turn their backs on their family and their country. One thing is certain: their marriage changed the British royal family forever. It forced the institution to look at itself in a new way. Harry and Meghan showed the world that even a prince can choose a different path, and that sometimes the greatest happily ever after isn't in a palace, but in a place where you feel free to be yourself. Thank you for joining QuickTale English. Subscribe for more stories about famous couples and historic moments, and continue practicing your B1 English. See you next time.